just looking around in the world, it's like positives are everywhere.
Yep.
So are negatives. You can look at either one of them. That's your choice. It's just like totally a choice what you want to focus on. You can focus on all the good in the world or focus on what you call all the bad in the world. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Behind Their Success podcast. I'm Peyton Squires, the host, and today we have on Martin Salama. Martin is a certified life coach, entrepreneur strategist, and creator of the Warrior's Life Code. After overcoming incredible personal and financial setbacks, Martin has dedicated his life to helping others shift from self-doubt to unstoppable confidence. He's the author of Worrier to Warrior and a sought-after guest on the Top Mindset and Business podcast. And I'm really excited to have you on here today. Martin, good morning. Welcome on the show.
Thank you so much, Peyton. I'm excited to be here with you.
Yeah, absolutely, Martin. So, give us like kind of a little bit of your background and kind of how you got here today.
So you mentioned that I'm a certified life coach, business coach. If somebody calls me about almost anything, I can coach them, but for the most part, it's about shifting that mindset from lack to abundance, from self-doubt to self-confidence. And I even go a little deeper than that, so from self-conscious to self-aware.
Yeah.
And most people are like, oh, I'm self-aware. I'm like, no, you're aware, maybe not self-aware. And, and there's a big difference between self-conscious and self-aware.
Yeah, 100%. Like self-awareness, that topic probably comes up on 90% of these episodes. And I think
right.
It's a superpower to know yourself, inside and out, because then you know how to go operate out in the world.
Right, exactly. And, I as part of what I did when I wrote my book, I also put together a card deck. Mm-hmm. Okay. Kind of like, okay, I'm on the road and I want to pull out a card or whatever. I don't feel like looking through the book. I'm home. Let me pull out a card and see how it's going to affect me today. And one of them was on self-aware versus self-conscious. So self-consciousness comes from a place of negative energy, guilt, conflict, and doubt. Self-consciousness is more outward directed. It's being more concerned about what others are thinking of you and how the situation is going to affect you. You probably react to uncomfortable situations instead of respond. When you're self-conscious, you're questioning your decisions. You're second-guessing yourself, allowing other people's opinions and judgments sway your own judgment. Self-consciousness comes from a mindset of lack, complaining, and blaming. All right? Whereas self-awareness comes from a place of positive energy, acceptance, contentment, self-assuredness. Self-awareness is more inward-facing. You have an accurate and realistic understanding of how you are responding to situations and how you feel about things. It enables you to approach interactions and circumstances from a more balanced, richer stance. Self-awareness comes from a mindset of abundance, taking responsibility, and gratitude. I kind of look at it as self-conscious is ego-driven and self-awareness is humility-driven.
100%. There's a famous quote there, Socrates, I guess, is credited with it of, know thyself, right?
Yeah. Well, in our house, we call them Socrates, but, that's besides.
Yeah.
Somebody recently, they go, I don't get it.
It is a journey, right? It's kind of peeling back a lot of different layers, a lot of different, even traumas or different things that you've experienced. And you don't, consciously, you don't even realize necessarily, or you haven't taken the time to process that stuff to realize, what makes you, how do you interact in the world? Like, what is some of your natural personality traits? All these things, kind of add up to understanding yourself as best as possible to be able to operate in the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, letting people understand that dynamic of self-aware versus self-conscious is the beginning of the process. Because once they start to understand that, then they can look at themselves a little differently and say, okay, how am I really approaching every situation in my life? What has affected me in the past? I'd love to say that I've met a client who's got it all together and has had no trauma in their life, no setbacks, no adversity. But he doesn't exist. She doesn't exist.
Yeah, I mean, it's impossible not to get quote unquote hurt, right? Operating out in the world, like you're going to run into situations that get stretched too far, which you might call that trauma, right? And that you're not prepared for that. So it's like, there's There's nobody running around out there that's got it together that doesn't have all these significant issues, probably like, each listener, that's listening to the show.
Right. And that's where the worrier to warrior comes into my book, comes into my coaching and all that, is because so many of us are worrying about everything that's going on. And that term for me came up during COVID. What was happening was, March comes along and COVID, everything shuts down. Mm-hmm. And the world, overnight is stuck at home, not knowing what's going to happen. And they're saying, okay, you have to shutter in your home. I found a way to get out every day. I mean, we still had to go shopping. We still had to do things. I would put the gloves on. I would put the mask on. In the beginning, they really would put gloves on, Yeah.
I mean, in the beginning, nobody knew what the heck was going on.
Right, exactly. And, as a matter of fact, I was away on a trip when everything started to shut down. And at the time, they're like, leave your packages outside and, for a day. So I come home from the trip. And I walk into the house and my wife says, take your clothes off. I'm like, yes. She's like, no, and sleep downstairs.
And get out of here. You got to isolate.
Right, exactly. Here we are in COVID and I'm 2 months into this. And I turned to my wife and I said, let's take the kids to New York City. I'm from Brooklyn. So let's go to Manhattan. So, okay, it's a Sunday. We drive to Manhattan and it's only 2 months in. And if you know anything about driving in New York City, it takes forever. Oh, lucky you. It takes forever to get anywhere. Well, this day, I was able to drive down Museum Mile, which is on Fifth Avenue, straight down Fifth Avenue without missing a traffic light.
Yeah, you flew down.
And I turned to my wife. I said, where is everybody? What is everybody so worried about? You can still go outside. We're driving past Central Park and there's nobody there. Like you could go 6 feet apart, wear the mask, even the gloves, whatever. And I realized that what I had gone through the last 10, 12 years before that, since 2008, when the financial world fell apart and I lost everything, till now, I understood that I was a worrier for most of my life. So I got the point that because of the work I'd done, going through coaching and all the things I'd done for myself and my clients, that nothing was ever going to worry me again. I might be concerned, but not worried. And there's a big difference between those two things. So I got onto Facebook and I said, guys, I get it. I understand why you're worried. I was there myself. So let me show you how to go from being a worrier to a warrior. And for me, a warrior is who's gone through the adversity, the trauma, the setbacks, and they come through it stronger.
Yeah. It's a classic example, like going to the gym, right? Like you experience a little stress or trauma or whatever. And man, I was listening to a podcast just this morning about like in today's world or some of the, everybody's trying to avoid stress, like 100% avoid stress, which we don't want to be overstressed because that's damaging to our body, right? But like you have to have stress. You have to have something that is you're pushing up against that is, right. like lifting a weight, right? Like that is making you stronger. In the short term, it beats you down a little bit, but like then you become stronger. And next time, well, you can lift that weight, right?
Right. It's the muscle memory of it. Yeah. Exactly. And it's funny because so often people think life coaches are supposed to be there to show you how to be happy your whole life. And that's not really
it's not reality.
Not reality. It's about how to get through pressures. They're like, oh, I'll never be angry again if I go to a life coach. No, it's not about how you, about being angry. It's about how are you showing up in your anger state. Yeah. I used to be a powder keg. I would lose my mind like a nuclear reactor. I would react to everything, and I'd have to go back and, clean up all the fallout. And most of the times those apologies came with like, Peyton, I'm so sorry I did that. But, you set me off.
It's you. It's your fault.
No, it's you. And I was like, that's no way to apologize. And then I read I haven't thought about this book in a while, but I read the last lecture by Randy Pausch, who was dying and he was a professor. And one of the things he talked about is the correct way to say I'm sorry. Right? He says, I'm sorry. I recognize what I've done wrong, and I'm going to try not to do that again. It's not about clearing up and saying, this happened, so that put me there. No, that's not a true apology. So that's part of what, what's going on there.
That's a great point there. Like you're still giving away control of your life if you're saying you did something because of some external event, right? And sure, external events put extra pressure on us and might, that external event might because we're not strong enough, tip us over into anger or whatever, right? But it's still like you got to take control of what you can take control of, because there is so much in the world that you can't, right?
Exactly.
And really, truly, what Viktor Frankl and Man's Search for Meaning, right? Like the only, the most important thing is like, what do you do in between the tiny little gap between like stimulus and response, right? And that you can control that tiny little time frame, you can control your entire life.
Right. I was just talking about that book the other day. It's really a powerful, powerful book. And I didn't read it until a few years ago. I was like, how the heck did I miss this book?
Yeah.
And it's just really, and you shudder when you read the story, the first part of it, and what he went through to the Holocaust. And I had read it after I had read one of his students' books, who also went through the Holocaust. Her name is Edith Egger. She's still alive. She's like, I don't know, 94 or something. And she wrote a book called The Choice. And the choice is, yes, I was a victim. Yes, I stood before Mengele, and he could have pointed me to the left or to the right. But I made it through. And I won't allow what happened to victimize me. For those who don't know Viktor Frankl, he went through the Holocaust, and every day he's like, his hope was there that he was going to survive. Whereas the people around him gave up hope. And he had already written this book and lost it. So he's like, okay, I have to rewrite this when I can. So that hope, that mindset, his search for meaning for life was, I'm getting through this. It's not a question of if I'm getting through it. So it's the same thing with her. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, that listeners, if you ever read the book, absolutely. Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. It's probably one of the, most impactful books of the last century or whatever. It's the perfect example of like, Viktor Frankl went through like the craziest thing you can almost even imagine, like awful stuff, right? Like you can't even think of stuff worse. And the ability for humans to survive if they have the right mindset, right? The right mindset. And in that book, he talks about, it's like he could see people that, when they give up, 3 days later, they'd be dead.
They're dead.
And it was all, you could see them give up, and then shortly after they'd be dead. And it's amazing how we're designed in a way that just pure, like we're designed in a way to survive. And like if we choose that, that's why we've, been on the earth forever, however long we have been. Humans are designed to survive.
We're designed to thrive, but, that's up to us if we take it to that next level.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, that's another level.
Right, exactly. And most people think they're in this world just to get through every day. But you know what? God has a plan for every one of us. And it's about us recognizing what is that plan for us and then living it however it's supposed to be lived for you.
Yeah, that's great, Martin. So, Martin, you coach a lot of different people. What are some like common mistakes or just like, obviously you go into a lot of situations. Can you give us like a few just really common scenarios you see, and then just maybe a couple practical, steps that maybe some of the listeners can take if they relate to that?
Sure. If you'd like, I can pull up somebody's testimonial and then talk about him a little bit.
Yeah, 100%.
I'll talk about a guy named Joshua. Okay. Joshua, after working with Martin, I'm happier, I have better relationships, and I have more clients because I am being my real positive self. I mean, there's a lot more to it, but that's just a quick thing. So Joshua came to me. It's interesting how I met Josh. I started working with his sister on putting together my ideas of what I had been teaching, coaching my clients, and memorializing it, as it were. And he was her partner. And about a month into it, he said, I think I'd like you to coach me. So we came up with that way of, me paying them, then him paying me, blah, blah, blah. And I would give him these concepts that didn't have specific wording to it yet because I was going through with my clients. And now I was memorializing them, putting in their book. And I would throw them out to him and go through them. And he was somebody who had gone through so much trauma in his life that he said to me, I just felt like I was just a vessel for other people's happiness, and I was just going to move through life.
Wow.
And whatever. So, and you heard what I said. So I felt like, when he went through the program and each one of them kept on resonating with him, And they had for others, but now that I put it this way, it really made what I was doing important. For example, we talked about the self-consciousness and reacting and self-aware and responding. And one of the things that I had come up with, but I had never really named until right before I actually met with Heather and Josh to put things together, was how do you respond in every situation? So many people react. And I talked about just earlier how I was a nuclear reactor myself.
Yeah. And same here. And, this is me making an assumption, Martin. I came from a very reactive family or, father, grandfather, you know what I mean? And the generational stuff that comes down through that is massive.
Right, exactly. So I was just a reactor myself, and that's who I was. And to me, that was my default tendency, and I couldn't change that until I went through the ups and downs in my life, many downs, and thank God, many ups as well. But I was at a down point, and I decided to change, and I decided to become a life coach. And that first weekend of coach training, they go, before we start showing you how to help others, you got to figure yourself out. And, and that was a big part of it. I mean, it was much deeper than that, of course. And one of the things was I had to learn how to stop making every conversation into a confrontation, right? Because I was always taking things personally. Yeah. And right before I started the coach training, they handed us a list of books and they said, read a couple of these. And one of them was a book by Don Miguel Ruiz called The Four Agreements.
Oh, yep.
Mm-hmm. Right. And number 2 is Don't Take Anything Personally. Yep. I was like,
I have that book back here in my shelf.
There you go. It's back in my Brooklyn shelf. I'm in New Jersey right now. So that was a life changer for me. So now that I understood that, I had to figure out how to change the way I did things. So I came up with a system and whatever. And as I said, okay, now I got to come up with a way of communicating it so people could understand it. And I was talking to my coach, one of my coaches who was helping me with this and helping me with some other things. He says, well, how would you explain what you go through? I said, you know what? Here's an idea. When kids go to schools and the firefighter comes to visit them in school to teach them about fire safety, they want to leave them with a message at the end of the day for them to remember. So they tell them 3 words: stop, drop, and roll. Mm-hmm. Right? We'll think about it.
Everybody knows that one, right?
Stop, drop, and roll. Stop what you're doing. If you smell smoke or whatever, drop to the ground below the smoke and roll away from the fire or the smoke or whatever. I said, basically, that's what I'm kind of doing here. I'm telling my clients to stop before you freak out. Think for a minute. So stop, think. Why am I about to freak out? Why am I about to react? Am I taking it personally? Are they attacking me directly? Is it going to change my life in a week or 2 or a month? Whatever. And instead of reacting, respond. So I went to stop, think, and respond. So, I mean, in theory, it sounds great. So I'm like, what's a great way to get started? So when you're ready to react the way you've always done in the past, say stop. And if you're not ready to understand that you have to think it through, say to them, you know what? That's interesting. Let me think about it. Right? Now, you're giving yourself permission to think about it, and you're telling them, I'm hearing you, and I have to work this through. Yeah. And then you go to respond. So then I even got to the point of saying, okay, I know that nobody's going to get this right the first time.
Well, no, yeah. I mean, that's a practice, right?
Right. So I came up with a scorecard. And while I was working on this, it was during COVID, and my wife, my second wife, I was divorced and I got married again, and her son were outside playing basketball. And there's a game we used to play when we were kids that she was playing it with her son called 5-3-1. I don't know if you know that game.
So I'm a big basketball guy, but I don't know that. That must be a Northeast thing.
It must be. So 5 is you stand at the free throw line and you take a free throw shot. Mm-hmm. If you get it, you get 5 points. Then you rebound, you take the rebound. If you missed it or whatever, you get the rebound yourself. You take the shot from wherever you got the ball. It could be right next to, it could be 10 feet away, whatever. If you get that in, that's 3 points. And then you take a layup, that's 1 point, 5-3-1. And if you got all 3, you get the extra point. So as they walk in, I go, how was the game? He says, I lost 100-0. I was like, how is that possible? He was 14 at the time. Yeah. He goes, I just kept on shooting the 5s. I go, but number one, that's not how the game is played. And number two, you need to make the threes and the ones to build up the points. Yeah. So I was like, okay. So I thought about it and I said, how about if I flip it? And I go, if you stop in the moment, give yourself a point. If you think about what you were going to say and change it, give yourself 3 points. And if you say something that was better than you would have said it otherwise, then give yourself 5 points. And if you did all 3 of them, give yourself the extra point. So the thing is, most people don't realize it in the moment that they really freaked out and they shouldn't have, right? But the next day they may be thinking about it. So I have a card that talks about the 5-3-1 and all that, right? And that's cool, of course, So I said, if it's the next day, stop and you stop and you go, you know what? I had that argument with Peyton yesterday. Why did I do that? And you start thinking about it. And you think, so you give yourself a point. Now, if you're thinking about how could I have done it better, give yourself 3 points. And then if you pick up the phone and you go to Peyton and you go, you know what, Peyton, I'm so sorry for the way I reacted. It was wrong with nothing to gain other than you going out there and being, as they say in Hebrew, a mensch in Yiddish, being a person. Give yourself the 5 points. And if they come back and they say something good about that and apologize and appreciate or whatever, give yourself the extra point. Yeah. Now you're building the muscle memory in your brain.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that. It's a game. You just kind of created, and people love games. Yeah. I'm a big fan of trying to gamify everything in your life because it's really addicting, right?
That's why life has a meaning. Warrior's life code has a meaning. It means live incredibly full every day. Yeah. Right. Which has 2 meanings to it: be happy and meaningful. Right. And a lot of that comes from Viktor Frankl, the meaningful part.
And and what you're doing there is exactly what Viktor Frankl talks about, is expanding that time between stimulus and response, right? And being able to control that. And you start using Martin's tool, you're still going to blow up, in the beginning, right? But the important thing is that you start to recognize it, because so many people are just bouncing around through life doing 90% of the things they do. Well, 95% of what any human does is totally unconscious. Yeah. That we don't even 95% of all of our actions never even reach our consciousness. So that, true. And most people don't even believe that, but they Google it. It's the first thing to show up.
Right. And so it's building that awareness another way.
Yeah, it's just trying to know yourself and building that awareness so you can actually begin to shift those habits, because all those things blowing up, guess what? Guess where it all came from? My childhood and my experience. And that's what I was taught. And, that's not to blame, anybody necessarily. It's just, it is what it is.
Right.
And you have to become more and more self-aware, be able to take control.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. As a matter of fact, the other day, my wife came to me. She said, I really don't want to fight, but you did something that really bothered me, and I need to point it out. So the old me would have been like, okay, let's get ready to rumble.
Let's duke it out.
No, not ready. But she said, I know you're ADHD, and I know you didn't do this on purpose, but I need you to be more aware of it. She says, I was having a conversation about something, and you wanted to point out something as we were driving. So you pointed it out and forgot about our conversation. So she's like, I felt hurt. I'm like, yeah. She goes, I know you weren't trying to hurt me. I said, okay, thank you for making me aware. And I also said, please, the next time I do that, kindly say, this is what we're talking about. So I prefaced it by saying, kindly say it. Don't get upset at me, right? Because you told me yesterday that it happened. Because my ADD is going to come back anyway.
Yeah, you're going to be pointing at a bird or something.
By the way, you forgot about this conversation or something.
Yeah.
So that's communication. That's the awareness that now I have to work on building on something else in my life. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's important, it's important to realizing that situation, especially in relationships. And, my wife and I try to do this type of stuff. I'm certainly not perfect. She's better than I am. But you had no bad intentions in that, in that, I don't call it argument or conflict or whatever. You guys seem to have a really good job of dealing with that stuff. But your wife was really hurt, right? Like she felt like she was unheard, all these things, right? You're not paying any attention to her. And like, you're not even aware of that. Like you have no idea.
Exactly.
Right? And it's amazing how like humans can get into conflict like that. It's just because, and there's no bad intentions whatsoever.
None.
And it's just really like all human conflict just comes from literal miscommunication.
Yeah, exactly. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Are you looking for a new tax experience? Looking for an advisor that actually brings you high-level ideas and proactively plans so you aren't overpaying your taxes? Or how about one that even just responds and communicates in a timely fashion? If any of that resonates with you, you probably just have a tax preparer and not a tax planner. And it is through the tax planning process where all the value is found. I'm Peyton Squires. I'm a CPA and owner of WR Tax Planners. We work alongside entrepreneurs and high-income earners, helping them pay the least amount of income taxes, both legally and ethically. We have saved our clients hundreds of thousands of dollars through specific strategies, and we guarantee we can find multiple tax saving strategies that your current tax preparer hasn't told you about. If that interests you, head on over to the contact page at PeytonSquires.com. There you can fill out a contact form and get a call booked to see what it would look like to have WR Tax Planners on your team.
Entrepreneurs struggle with self-doubt, right? And me, it's something I struggle with a lot. People think I'm a lot more confident than I am. I'm a pretty good speaker and talker to people. So people assume I'm confident, which really isn't necessarily the case. I've done a lot of work on it, but so for the listeners that are struggling with self-doubt, can you give them just one action step that might be able to make them just a little bit better, or at least, push them down that journey to get better?
Absolutely. How about if I pull out another card?
Love it.
When you're in self-doubt, your mood is kind of down.
Yeah.
Right? So I have the life mood lifter method to stay positive no matter what is going on around you. Okay? And I took the word life again and turned it into four different parts. L, live responsibly. Take responsibility for everything going on in your life, the wins and the challenges. Okay. And people when they say take responsibility, you mean, I did something up, I screwed up. Yeah. But if you did something good, take the credit for it. That doesn't mean going around like a peacock with your plume, but, be confident about it. Right. Then 2, inspire yourself. Inspire yourself by stop complaining, worrying, and criticizing. Look for good things around you. Look for the positivity. F, feel gratitude. This is the biggest part of it, right? Because when you look for things that are positive in your life and you stop complaining and you start appreciating, everything else starts to happen. So if you can wake up in the morning and say, I got to go to work, you're already setting yourself up for the fall.
Already going to be a terrible day.
But if you wake up and say, I get to go to work, I'm looking forward to it, that helps. And then the E is embrace that your new beliefs are working, that all these things are working, and be aware of the results that are starting to show up. Don't expect, say to yourself, that's a one-off. No, it's not. It's part of what you're planting the seeds in yourself for it to happen.
Yeah, that's some great stuff. Yeah, and when it comes to gratitude or, just looking around in the world, it's like positives are everywhere.
Yep.
So are negatives. You can look at either one of them. And it's your choice. It's just totally a choice what you want to focus on. You can focus on all the good in the world or focus on what you call all the bad in the world.
Yeah. One of my mentors, her name is Genevieve Davis. She wrote a book on magic. Okay. And it's not about poof, it's about the magic that's within you. She goes, the world is as you see it. Yep. So if you want to see it as positive and wonderful, that's what it's going to be. And if you want to see it as downtrodden and terrible, that's what it's going to be. And who cares who the president is of the world, of the United States? It doesn't mean anything in the bigger picture.
I think it's Einstein. Einstein has a quote. It's something like, the most important choice that any human can make, the most important decision of your life, according to Albert Einstein, is the universe working for me or against me? And, smartest men of all time, he says that's the most important thing for you to say.
He's right. He was 100%. There's so many things that he said that are unbelievable. That's a great one. Yeah. Is it working for me or against me? And that's the magic that Genevieve talks about. is that if you believe that things are going to work out, they will. Now, the thing is, if they don't work out exactly as you want them to, it's probably God or the universe telling you,
well, you just don't know what you're doing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we make all these plans of the world, and like, it's all going to work out. Like, well, you don't know enough to even know how all this is.
Of course. I prayed to God, and he didn't answer. I said, you weren't listening. He said no.
Yeah, you had no idea. Yeah,
he said no.
He said, hey, stupid, stop. You know, that's not the way. Yeah, and it's what people, you know, people want to go into something. They want it to work out and play out. You know, let's start a business and, hey, this is going to work out and be great and grow into whatever it is. Optimism's great, right? And start there. But like you don't know anything about business. Like coming into it, like you have no idea what kind of struggles you're going to have. And then leading into it, like we're in a dynamic world, in a crazy dynamic world now that changes, you know, every 30 seconds with technology and whatever. Like,
yeah,
I'm not a huge fan of like strategic long-term planning anymore. Like our long-term planning is really like quarter to quarter, maybe 6 months to a year. Like,
wow, that's from the CPA.
Well, and to me, like it's, you know, I have no idea where AI is going to be at in 12 months.
Oh my God.
I mean, seriously, if you're not able and ready to just pivot. And this is where all of us listeners here, all of us small business owners have a huge advantage over all these massive businesses that have a whole lot of other advantages over us.
Yeah.
We can pivot. We can pivot quickly. For a huge organization to implement all this stuff, it takes years and committees and, you know, votes and all these things. You can beat them to it. And you can do it, you know, so much faster. So that's a massive advantage. I think
100%.
people understand as a small business and, you know, in this dynamic world we live in.
100%. I can't agree more with that. You know, it's how you look at it. It's how you approach it. It's how you want it to be. And that's where the lack to abundance comes in, is that if you're desiring it, but your mindset is, I'm never going to get it, then you're never going to get it.
100%.
You're already defeating yourself. You're going, I can't do this. And you have to change it to, how can I? I can't afford this. But okay, so instead of saying that, how can I afford it?
Yeah. Let's make a plan if it's that important, right? You can get it with the right sacrifices and energy, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And the Henry Ford quote, right, of like, you think you can, you can. You think you
right.
can't,
Exactly.
yeah. And either way, you're right.
Right. If you can or you can't, you're right.
It's so true. And it's amazing stuff.
Right.
Martin, what's a way they can best, you know, hold you, work with you? You know, they like what you hear. You know,
cool.
I've been very impressed with your communication and thoughts around all this stuff.
Thank you.
What's the best way people can talk to you or get know more about you?
So the best way to get me, I've made it simple. It's called connectwithmartin.com. Okay, that's it. And you can go there, and I do seminars or webinars every once in a while. I call them workshops, actually, which shows the people how they can come up with a 7-figure income within 2 years or less, stuff like that, guaranteed. Because the way I build my program is in a way of saying, I don't make money until you make money, right? Instead of pay me up now, and I've gone through that too many times. I also, on there, you could buy my book, you could buy my cards, you could also click a link to have a half-hour conversation with me. I'm not going to try to sell you to become a client of mine. If you want to, we'll figure it out. If there's the connection there, we'll figure it out. But you know what I started recently doing? A few years ago, I started making YouTube videos. And I was cooking and coaching on these things. But over the last couple of months, I started doing YouTube shorts. Yeah. So if you want, go to Martin's YouTube at Martin, whenever it is, Martin Salama on YouTube, put my name in. It'll come up. Watch those shorts. They're maybe a minute long. I don't think there's any that are 2 minutes long. It's a great way to find out about me, see what I'm talking about. I talk about all these kind of things that we're talking about here. And if you like it, subscribe, send me a message, and we'll see where we go from there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Could I make it any simpler?
Yeah. I love your approach there. My approach is very similar too, where it's just like, hey, this is what I do. We do it at a high level. If you want to work with us, great. If you want to get on the train, awesome. If you don't,
right,
that's fine too. No hard feelings.
Right. When I got into coaching, it was, I want to make $1 million. Now it's, I want to help 1 million people.
Yeah. And it's amazing as you go down the road and the journey and stuff, it becomes a whole lot less about those dollar bills. Right. And people will hear that statement and think, oh, well, easy for you to say or whatever, but it's true, right? Like money, I came from a very, you talk about lack and scarcity, like that was my mindset through and through, right? And walking into that, probably not to the last 7-8 years to where it's like, I've made that shift to where it's not like, oh, I need to do all this because I'm scared I'm going to lose it all or whatever.
Right.
is so much more free, and it becomes so much more about you, or less about you is what I would say. And so much more about, now that I've stepped into that abundant stuff, like I have a team, and it becomes more about them, and of course my kids and, my family and all those things. And
and you know what she's talking about there, especially for your audience, for entrepreneurs, it's the core of what they have to do. They have to understand it's not about me. It's about us. It's about being the leader, not the boss. And not managing people, leading people.
Yeah, 100%. Servant leadership is you set the standard, right? Like you set the standard in your business. Yep. That if you're not a great leader, you don't ever come to the office or don't, whatever, depending on what your situation is, like no one's going to perform up to the standard that you set. They're always going to be a little bit under it. So, right, like if you set a super low standard, guess what your employees are going to do? They're just going to follow you. It's really all on your shoulders.
100%. Yeah. Look, we still talk about Abraham Lincoln because he was a great leader, right? But he was also a great server. It's the same idea. The great people, the great leaders that we talk about, because they served. They understood what their audience, what their people needed.
And they gave it to them without any worry about themselves.
No fanfare. Yeah.
Yep. Martin, man, this has been a great conversation. I appreciate you. Anything you want to leave for the listeners before we sign off?
Yeah. 2 things. First thing is wake up every morning and be grateful. Write down 3 things you're grateful for every single morning in a good book, in a good notebook, like a moleskin. Okay. And go out today and make somebody laugh. And when they laugh, tell them, thank you for filling my quota to let somebody laugh. Because we do it all the time. We make somebody laugh and then we walk away. But now you've made an impression on them by saying, thank you for filling my quota. So do that.
Yeah. Do something special for somebody today. Something little.
Yeah. Random
Yeah. Martin, I appreciate you. Listeners, we'll catch you next time.
I appreciate you too.
Great job, man.
Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. If you found it valuable, please rate, review, and share it. That is the best way to help us build this and reach more people, as we're trying to accomplish our goal of help creating more healthy, wealthy, and wise entrepreneurs. You can follow us on social media by searching for me, Peyton Squires, or going to PeytonSquires.com. On the website and social media, we're always sharing tips of personal growth, and there we can actually interact. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks, guys.